Welcome back, friends. It's been a month since my Terran Armada hot take, and since then I've been doing some thinking and a little bit of sleuthing online. Turns out Bethesda does have a plan, and if I'm right, that plan connects everything: gameplay systems, content updates, DLCs, and the PlayStation port. Even how modders get paid. Stick around because once you see the full picture, it's going to make a lot of sense. Just to recap, after Shattered Space, Bethesda went radio silent for almost a year. That silence came on the heels of a mixed reception. Many players were expecting something closer to Cyberpunk's Phantom Liberty, a total gameplay overhaul. But instead, Bethesda released a traditional story driven DLC. No new core systems, no mechanical reworks, just a focused narrative expansion. That sparked a lot of backlash, and Bethesda went silent shortly after. And then, the silence broke. Tim Lamb, the lead creative producer at Bethesda Game Studios, finally stepped forward and gave us our first glimpse at what's next.
To me, Starfield was like making 4 games. You have your I'm running around shooting aliens and space guys. You have your I'm flying around in a spaceship, shooting other spaceships. You have the ship builder game. You have the outpost game. Starfield to me was like making 4 games at once. I think as it comes to Starfield, I'm really excited for players to see what the team's been working on. We have some cool stuff coming, including free updates and features players have been asking for, as well as a new DLC story. I can't go into all the details just yet, but I will say part of the team has been focused on space gameplay to make the travels there more rewarding. We're also adding some new game systems and a few other smaller delights. There's also some really interesting stuff coming down the pipe from our verified creators. There's some fun stuff.
To summarize what Tim Lamb said, he described Starfield as 4 games in one: space exploration, planet exploration, shipbuilding, and outpost building. He also confirmed that a separate team is developing a story DLC, and that verified creators have some exciting projects in the works. But the part that stood out to me was this. Tim mentioned free updates with new gameplay systems, and specifically said there is a team focused on making space gameplay more rewarding. What you are looking at now is a screenshot from a code leak that surfaced briefly before being pulled the next day. It references a new travel method called cruise mode. Most people interpret this as something similar to the popular Astrogate mod, allowing interplanetary travel and several other features that make spaceflight feel more immersive. Personally, my hope is that this turns out to be a more polished version of Astrogate. Not one that not only streamlines travel, but also introduces random encounters or events to break up these long interplanetary flights. Something to make deep space interesting again. Well, just to add icing on the cake, about a week after the Tim Lamb interview, and a day before the 1-year anniversary of Shattered Space, Bethesda dropped a 12-second happy anniversary video. Most people saw a quick montage, but there were images flickering in and out. And when fans started digging frame by frame, they pulled out this. It says Terran Armada. Terra is Latin for Earth, and Armada is Spanish for Warfleet. So when I hear Earth Warfleet, I can't help but think back to Tim talking about a team working on making space travel more rewarding. I think Terran Armada is the story wrapper for that overhaul. Essentially, the narrative layer that ties into cruise mode. Now, I know a ton of people are calling this DLC 2, but I don't think that's what this is, and here's why. If you know Bethesda, they always trademark their DLC titles before announcing them. That's how we knew the title for Shattered Space prior to the announcement. The Scrolls legal battle shows the importance Bethesda places on their intellectual property. I searched the internet, high and low, for a trademark filing for Terran Armada, and I couldn't find one. Some people argue it's too generic to trademark, but that would actually make Bethesda's legal team change the name entirely. They would never tease something meant for sale on digital storefronts without legal protection first. The risk of copycats is just too high. That's why I think Terran Armada is coming in the form of a free content update, likely tied to the new space travel system. Could it be a paid creation? Maybe. But after the reception of the Trackers Alliance creation, I doubt they'll take that route again. But you know what trademark I did find? So here's what I found. The Starborn trademark filing from July 2024. And honestly, it wasn't even hard to find. It's literally the first Google result for Starborn trademark. See, trademark filings are very easy to track down, and this one was filed as not in use, which implies future intent. That's why I think Starborn is DLC 2. But that raises the next question. When would DLC 2 be announced? According to several reliable leakers, including Nate the Hate, the next DLC was delayed until spring 2026 to align with the upcoming PlayStation port. That gives us a few possible events where Bethesda could make the announcement. GDC and PAX East, both happening in March 2026. But honestly, that's too late to kick off a major marketing cycle. A launch of this scale, a new DLC, and a new platform needs to get on Microsoft's 2025 physical books, which close on March 31st. And let's be honest, PlayStation is a massive market, far larger than Xbox, and it sells whole games, not just DLC. So they'll want to start that hype train early. That leaves one perfect stage, the Game Awards in December. I think Bethesda is going to mirror what they did for Shattered Space, reveal Starborn with a trailer, and then shadow drop Terran Armada at the same time, just like they dropped the Rev 8 alongside the Shattered Space announcement. Big trailer, instant content drop, the kind of 1-2 punch Bethesda loves. Personally, my hope for Starborn is that when Tim Lamb said 4 games in 1 and mentioned new gameplay systems, those systems extended beyond just space travel. For planetary exploration, I would love to see them revisit procedural generation, adding more points of interest and cooldowns on repeat spawns so exploration feels fresh again. For shipbuilding, new parts and a few quality of life tweaks to the builder itself would go a long way. And finally, for outpost building, I would love to see walls added so that players can design their own habs with unique layouts. Maybe even a new gameplay system that makes outpost construction integral to the overall experience. That's the kind of expansion that would tie all 4 pillars together and make Starfield feel truly complete. This brings us to the last thing Tim Lamb said, that there are exciting projects verified creators are working on. Let me tell you, doing mod reviews on a regular basis will absolutely get modders in your DMs, and I can confirm there are several projects in the works right now from teams across the world. I'm honestly rooting for all of them, because at the end of the day, I get to play more fun mods. Everyone wins. But a lot of voices online have framed this negatively, saying that mods only exist to fix Bethesda's broken game. That's a stretch. Most players I talk to run their own custom load orders. That's not because they're trying to patch a disaster. That's because they're personalizing Starfield for their tastes. They tweak procedural generation, adjust level scaling, rebalance loot, change AI behavior, all to shape the experience into something that feels theirs. Starfield isn't about being the best space RPG, it's about being your space RPG. But this negative framing of Bethesda's focus on mods goes far beyond fixing a broken game cliche. Many voices online now claim it's simply Bethesda's greed run amok, usually pointing back to the infamous Horse Armor DLC. It seems the internet will never forgive that one misstep in pricing exploration. But I'm old enough to remember it firsthand, and even back then, I had enough economic sense not to buy it. I saw the price, I laughed, and I moved on. I'm curious, if you were around for the Horse Armor DLC, did you buy it or did you pass? Let me know in the comments. Because here's the thing, the people shouting greed today tend to forget that the vast majority of mods are completely free. Nexus Mods alone hosts over 11,000 Starfield mods. Every single one of them is free. And even on Creations, Bethesda's internal mod store, most of what's available doesn't cost a cent. A few months back, Richard Presents Starfield actually counted all the paid mods on Creations and found that 89% were free. That's an incredible ratio when you think about it. And some of those free mods are genuinely top tier. Gameplay overhauls, UI improvements, full quest lines, texture packs, all at no cost to the player. Of course, if you want a fully voiced quest mod or a deep, professionally written gameplay overhaul, you'll probably spend a few dollars. But even then, the pricing is usually incredibly fair. Take Watchtower, for example. It adds an entire DLC-length narrative with original voice acting and fits seamlessly into the existing Starfield lore. It costs $10. If Bethesda themselves had made that as an official DLC, it would have easily been $20. From a consumer standpoint, mods are one of the best deals in gaming. The vast majority are free, and when you do pay, you're usually getting professional level work for a fraction of the cost. That's because modders operate with tiny overheads compared to Bethesda. They can charge competitive prices and still make a profit. So no, Bethesda supporting modding isn't greed. It's a system that lets everyone win. Modders earn something for their work, Bethesda keeps the ecosystem thriving, and players get value and freedom of choice. But this accusation of Bethesda's greed goes far beyond claims that they're just pushing paid creations to make a profit. Recently, a large YouTuber claimed to know the verified creator revenue split, citing an anonymous modder as a source. And he repeated it across multiple videos. According to him, the revenue split was modders 30%, Xbox 30%, and Bethesda 40%. None of that is correct, and the Xbox portion can be debunked with a single Google search. Here's the reality. When you go to buy creation credits, you're redirected to the Microsoft Store. And Microsoft has stated there is a 30% fee for all Xbox transactions. And this is standard for app stores. That 30% isn't going anywhere either. When Starfield is ported to PlayStation, that same cut will simply just belong to Sony instead. Then there are merchant fees, the kind charged by Visa and MasterCard. Every digital storefront pays them, usually around 2 to 5%, averaging about 2.5%. So when you account for the Microsoft Store and merchant fees, what's left is the actual revenue split between Bethesda and modders. Unlike that large YouTuber, I actually have a source, a primary source. The Verified Creator Agreement. I obtained it legally about 6 months ago, after doing a video on the ethics of compensating passion projects. A verified creator, who will remain anonymous, sent me the public URL for the Verified Creator Agreement. I did not report on it at the time because all parties involved seemed happy with the arrangement. It wasn't newsworthy. But when someone started spreading misinformation, claiming insider sources, and their numbers began to being accepted as fact, it became necessary to set the record straight. Quick disclaimer, I'm not under NDA, and I obtained this document illegally. What you're looking at here is Exhibit A from the Verified Creator Agreement. It lists 16 royalty tiers, each corresponding to a price tier. While it doesn't show the dollar values of the prices, that part was easy to deduce by cross-referencing the Creation Store and early Reddit posts from launch week of the Creation Store. Prices start at $1 and run up to $50, and the royalty ranges between 37 and 37.5%, clearly targeting that 37.5% mark. So when you add up the merchant fees, Microsoft Store, and the modders 37.5%, that leaves roughly 30% for Bethesda. And here's the kicker. The modders actually take the largest slice of the pie. But it gets even better. When mods go on sale in the Creation Store, that discount comes out of Bethesda's share, not the modders. If Bethesda issues a refund, that refund also comes out of Bethesda's pocket, not the modders. So before calling it greed, let's talk about what Bethesda actually does to earn that 30%. First, Bethesda built the intellectual property, the Creation Engine 2, and the Creation Kit, the very tools that make these mods possible. Second, they act in an advisory role. They assess the verified creations, offer pricing suggestions, and provide basic feedback. Modders are still free to set their own prices, but most aren't economists. This guidance helps ensure their work is fairly valued. Third, they provide QA for paid mods. It's not perfect, we've all seen a bug slip through, but mod authors regularly tell me about defect reports delaying releases. That QA helps polish mods before they hit the public. Fourth, and this one's huge, Bethesda handles marketing. Most verified creators are small teams or solo developers without social media reach. Bethesda promotes their work on their official Starfield Twitter, and even feature them on the front page of their Creation Store. Some people call that Bethesda pushing paid mods. I call it Bethesda marketing for people who can't market for themselves. Over the past few months, I've met modders who started out skeptical of paid mods, but changed their minds once they joined the program. And I have yet to meet a single modder who went the other direction, from paid back to unpaid. Why? Because they're being treated fairly. They're getting the largest slice of the pie, support from Bethesda, and the freedom to keep creating. The narrative of greed doesn't hold up, not when the numbers and the terms are right there in black and white. I have reached out to Bethesda in regards to comment and clarification on the revenue split approximately 24 hours ago. Please check the comments below. I will have a time-stamped comment if they do respond to me, and I will be presenting their response and clarification in the comment section below. And now, some breaking news that dropped just today. PlayStation, which has historically been one of the most restrictive platforms when it comes to modding, is now directly working with Bethesda to bring scripting and external asset support to Skyrim creations on PlayStation. According to an official post from the Bethesda Discord, the beta version of the Creation Kit can now upload scripts which opens the door to more complex quests, new gameplay systems, and deeper mod functionality. Bethesda also confirmed they're investigating additional external asset support, which means textures, meshes, and potentially full custom models could be coming to PlayStation for the very first time. Now think about that for a second. It's hard to believe that while Bethesda is deep into Elder Scrolls 6, they're suddenly investing resources into renegotiating the rules and infrastructure for a 10-year-old game, unless there's a larger strategy in motion. To me, this looks like prep work for a Starfield port to PlayStation with creation support baked in. They're testing the pipeline with Skyrim, which is safe, familiar ground. And once that infrastructure is in place and the legal agreements with Sony are finalized, it makes perfect sense to roll that system forward for Starfield. Much of this is still developing, and the beta could run for quite a while. But I'll be monitoring the situation closely as it unfolds. One thing's clear, Bethesda isn't just patching old games. They're quietly building cross-platform foundation for their future. So, to bring it all together, while Bethesda's silence has been deafening to the fans, they've clearly been cooking. That silence was finally broken by Tim Lamb with his 4 games in 1 comment, and what they've been cooking was teased through code leaks in that cryptic anniversary video. It looks like the first course is going to be served at the Game Awards with Terran Armada, and the main course will arrive in the spring with Starborn. Their plan seems to be a direct response to the mixed reception of Shattered Space, adding new gameplay systems, continuing work on a story-driven DLC, and doubling down on the one thing that has always worked, modding. Bethesda isn't done, they're just getting started. And if this is the direction they're heading, the next chapter of Starfield might be the most ambitious one yet. And as always, I'll be watching the data, the updates, and the mod scene. And I'll keep you posted as it all unfolds.